Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome back to the Wobble and Jaw Sports channel. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider liking the content and subscribing to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. In the previous round, I got 5 correct tips out of 7, and this week's episode is different. I've come down with the old spicy cough, unfortunately. So this is all going to be voice recorded and is recorded before the team lists have been announced. So that's not something I like to do, but I've just got to do it in this instance and get it out to you as soon as possible. But let's get stuck into round 18 of the 2023 NRL season. Round 18, 2023 is the Mark Hughes Foundation's Beanie for Brain Cancer round, and the first game starts on Thursday evening. It is the Great Southern Derby, the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks versus the St George Illawarra Dragons. On tab.com.au, the Sharks are $1.12 favourites and the Dragons are $6.20 outsiders. And again, that's on tab.com.au. Between the Sharks and the St George Illawarra Dragons, this will be the 52nd meeting between the two clubs. But if you include the record between the old St George Dragons, this will be the 112th meeting between the two sides, between the two rivals, and astoundingly, it stands at 54 wins apiece with 3 draws thrown in there as well. So the winner of this game on Thursday night will go ahead by 1 point on the overall head-to-head. In team list news, I believe that Toby Rudolph is ready to play and make a return this Thursday night. And besides that, the Sharks are coming off the bye and they've got to start hitting their straps. They've been kind of underwhelming so far in 2023, whereas the St George Illawarra Dragons, I think they're at the point now where they just want this season to be done with, and $6.20 is massive. I think it might be a little bit too massive, but in any event, the Sharkies, if the Warriors can win by the scoreline they did last weekend against the Dragons, I think the Sharkies can win by a similar scoreline. I'm going to go the Cronulla Sharks to win this one by 18 at least. Arguably the biggest Friday night doubleheader of the season starts from Go Media Stadium in Auckland. The Warriors host the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and on tab.com.au, the Warriors are favourites at $1.74, whereas the Rabbitohs are $2.10 outsiders. But the overall head-to-head leans heavily in the way of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. The Warriors have not defeated South Sydney in years, but this is looking like a hell of a time to break that hoodoo, if you would, against the South Sydney Rabbitohs this Friday night. I don't think I can remember a bigger home and away game than this one for the Warriors. I know that they had their big return game last season, and that stands on a rung alone, above and beyond everything. But so far as a regular home and away season game, I think this might be the biggest game since 2018, where they hosted the St George Illawarra Dragons. If not, it might even go all the way back to the 2008 semi-final, where they hosted and defeated the Sydney Roosters. So far as team list news go, Mitch Barnett could be an inclusion. Tomorrow Martin might be available, but I think they might err on the side of caution. And as for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, Jacob Host will be suspended for at least a week, possibly 2. And Latrell Mitchell obviously is not going to be playing until round 21. I think Murray, Cook and Walker, they all either returned from injury or returned from State of Origin over the week, and I think they'll be better for the run, but something's wrong with their defense, isn't it? It's a pretty graphic stat where they only leaked about 16 or so points in the first 11 rounds, and since then they've leaked on average 30 points. It's a pretty wild old stat that I'm going to tip the New Zealand Warriors in this game, and I'll tell you what, if they do win this contest, Get excited, Warriors fans. I'm already half excited for them, eh? So I'm going to go the New Zealand Warriors in a thriller, 1-12. And the second game on Friday night is from Marvel Stadium, the Docklands old Etihad Colonial Stadium. It is the Melbourne Storm versus the Penrith Panthers in undoubtedly the game of the weekend. It is second versus third, and Storm are $1.77 favourites, whereas the Panthers are $2.05 outsiders. This is the first NRL game to take place at Marvel Stadium since 2010, 13 years since they last played there. The Storm, I believe this is their 20th contest at Marvel Stadium, and they have only lost about 5 or 6 occasions in every appearance that they've had. The Penrith Panthers have had one match at the Docklands Stadium, and that was in 2001, and they went down 28 points to 24. For team list news, I believe Katoa will be back for the Melbourne Storm. Munster will definitely be back after he copped Caxton-itis over the weekend in his victory in State of Origin last week. And as for the Penrith Panthers, their entire State of Origin contingent all returning this weekend. So that's a massive, massive inclusion. And the surface will be very interesting to see how it goes. I believe that it is a firm, fast, hard surface. So the short kicking game, when opportunities arise for Storm or Panthers inside the attacking 20, they've got to be really delicate with their kicks. They've got to be really careful and precise. And Jack Cogger has got himself quite the task ahead of him this weekend. It's going to be super, super close, but they're almost undeniable at this point, are the Penrith Panthers. They're in such good form, and they've been in good form without their origin stars for the past 2 or 3 weeks now. So I'm going to go the outsiders. I'm going to tip Penrith to win 1-12 in a beauty. On to Super Saturday, and there are 3 games this weekend, and the first game is from 3 p.m. from GIO Stadium. The Raiders hosting the Titans, and on tab.com.au, the Raiders are $1.67 favourites, and the Titans are $2.20 outsiders. That is some really nice value. In team list news, Josh Papali'i suffered a hamstring injury, so he will not play in this game, and probably for the next month. And for the Gold Coast Titans, Big Tino Fa'asuamaleaui was rested this past weekend, but he will return in this game. The Titans do not have a happy record in Canberra, but they did have a good account of themselves last year, where they only went down by 2 points, and they even had a 3-try lead at halftime. And speaking of 3-try leads, Canberra Raiders, I mean, it goes for both sides, but I don't know who to trust in this game. I really don't. The Raiders, they've let the Tigers, the Roosters, well back into the contest, and I don't know if I can trust them in this game. Meanwhile, the Titans, I thought, there's some good signs there against the West Tigers, and then they took on the Broncos last weekend, and besides their first set of the game, which looked like it was going to be an absolute training run for the Broncos, the Titans finally clicked into gear, and they got the victory against the Broncos. I am going to tip the Gold Coast Titans. I didn't think I would, but Josh Papali'i is a massive exclusion. Tino's a massive inclusion. And I think they've just got more points than the Canberra Raiders, but the Titans need to show some of that resolve that they've shown against the Tigers and against the Brisbane Broncos over the past few weeks. It's going to be a close game, but I'm going to go the Gold Coast Titans at $2.20. The second game on Super Saturday is the North Queensland Cowboys hosting the West Tigers from QCB Stadium, and it is $1.22 towards the Cowboys. It's $4.30 to the West Tigers on tab.com.au. Last time these two clubs met, the Tigers won 66-18, and that was only about 6 or so weeks ago. However, Brooks and Coruscant played in that game. They will not be playing in this one. Jason Taumalolo didn't play in that huge loss, but he will return this weekend. He's about a 90% chance anyway. Todd Payton was very, very chirpy about his possible inclusion this Saturday. The form line is really nice for the Cowboys. 3 massive wins against Penrith, Storm and South Sydney in back-to-back weekends, but now they're taking on a side that have proven to be a bogey side towards them for many years now, including last year's controversial victory and the 66-18 loss earlier this season. So nobody, not me, would not taking the Tigers at all easy. Even though Appy Koroisau and Luke Brooks are not playing, they've still got the likes of David Clemmer. They've still got John Bateman and the likes. So, and apparently Dane Laurie could be playing in the 5/8 position this weekend. I'm going to say Cowboys 13 plus, but I'm showing a lot of respect and a lot of restraint in my tip in that. But I think they can be good enough to win 13 plus. And the last game on Super Saturday is from the Gabba. The Brisbane Broncos host the Dolphins in the Battle of Brisbane, Mark number 2. The Brisbane Broncos are favourites and the Dolphins are sitting at about $4 outsiders, unfortunately. But in team list news, Tom Flegler, Jordan Ricky are not going to be playing for the next couple of weeks. Potentially Jordan Ricky's season might be over. So the second row stocks have been hit massively for the Brisbane Broncos, and Reece Walsh has been referred straight to the judiciary and is a chance of not playing in this game. He might be suspended for a week or two for contrary conduct, I guess. And as for the Dolphins, yeah, they've hit that mid-season slide, but this now turns into a danger game for the Brisbane Broncos. If the Dolphins are to hit back into some sort of form, it is going to be against their great rivals. I say that sort of cautiously after only one game, but yeah, the Dolphins, if they can get up for this game, I think there's an opportunity, but I think the likes of Felice Kafusi and Kenny Bromwich, they really need to start hitting some Melbourne Storm form, man. And it hasn't been there for a couple of weeks now, maybe even a month or so. But another inclusion for the Dolphins is Jeremy Marshall-King. He is returning in the hooker position this weekend, and that's a huge in for the Dolphins. He is so important to that side. I don't know. This has become really kind of a flip of a coin. I am going... Whoa, there's a chance. I'll give the Dolphins a sniff. I think $4 is really, really nice and is a bit of a trap. But I'm going to play it safe and go Broncos. But if Reece Walsh doesn't play, I imagine Tristan Saylor will come in, and he's been doing really, really well in reserve grade. So I'm going to go the Brisbane Broncos, but only 1-12. I think this might be fairly bloody close. And on Sunday, we see 2 games, and number 1 is from a core stadium. The Bulldogs host the Knights on tab. The Dogs are outsiders at $2.20. The Knights are $1.67, and this is, as the Hello Sport boys would put it, an absolute poo slinger of a contest. I don't think anyone's returning. I think maybe Raymond for Taylor Mariner, but don't quote me. I don't think anyone's returning for the Bulldogs. For the Newcastle Knights, though, I don't think the team list will change from last weekend's disappointing effort against the Penrith Panthers. I don't know. This is a flip of the coin game. I want to tip Newcastle. They're just a little bit... they're a little bit more full strength when you look at the Canterbury Bulldogs, but the Doggies are coming off the bye. I think they're coming off the bye anyway. But in any event, I don't know. I'm gonna tip Newcastle with not a whole lot of confidence. I wouldn't be surprised if Dogs win. This is a yuck game. Sorry, Dogs and Knights fans. And the final game of round 18, Beanie for Brain Cancer round, is from 4 Pines Park, the Sea Eagles versus the Roosters. And on tab, Manly are $2.05 outsiders, and the Roosters are about $1.75 favourites. I immediately think that is great value on Manly because Jake Trbojevic, Brad Parker, and another good inclusion for them. The name escapes me. Is set to return this weekend, but Brad Parker and Jake Trbojevic especially will return this weekend. For the Roosters, Billy Smith, Butcher, another player or two, Satili Tupanua, Angus Crichton, they're going to be missing, one of them for the rest of the season. So again, their back row stocks have been smashed, but there is an inclusion of Joseph Suaalii back into the centres this weekend for the Roosters, but he hasn't exactly set the world on fire this year, has he? I'm actually going to tip Manly. It's a massive battle for both these sides. They're both sitting about 12th and 13th respectively on the ladder, and it's not loser leaves town sort of thing, but it's getting close. And unfortunately, the Roosters, while they showed some signs against the Raiders last weekend, the Raiders have been susceptible to, unfortunately, being the second half faders in recent times. Manly, they took on the Storm down at Amy Park and they scored the first try. They were in the contest for 60 or so minutes there. And they've had a massive signing spree as well over the past few weeks, including signing up Josh Schuster for a further 3 seasons, which was announced just today. So that might be a monkey off the back for Josh Schuster and the Manly Seagulls this weekend. I don't know if that means he'll play 5'8" this week or if he will go back into the second row. I'm not too sure what they'll do with Schuster this weekend and for the rest of the season, but I think with a bit more of a rest now for DCE, I think the Manly Seagulls should be too good for the Sydney Roosters, who, again, for what seems like the 4th year in a row, are just completely decimated by injuries like fair dinkum. Robbo, what are you putting in the water out there at Bondi? Those are my tips for round 18 of the 2023 NRL season. Thank you very much for the continued support, guys. Apologies this week. I'm crook as a friggin' dog and just couldn't bring myself to do me proper review and or preview, and I don't like doing me tips when the team lists haven't been announced as well. So thank you very much, guys. I'll see you guys as soon as I can. Thank you. Have a nice weekend. Adios.